Sylvia was just in my blood. She was in my blood right from the beginning. And I think we all felt that. There's no point in going back and looking at what you did 12 years ago. You just pick up and think, well, these characters will evolve. Russell T wrote so sensitively and beautifully for us and made sure that we had evolved, that we were learning, our lives were different, and we had different attitudes because we were older. And so we went with the newness of it all. Otherwise, you're sort of putting on a layer. And instead, we were just being who we felt that these characters would be today. From inside out.
There's been some rumblings in the creative Doctor Who community over the past year, where details have been emerging of a comedy drama pilot, which features an incredible lineup of the show's alumni. Henry House, directed and written by Gareth Thomas and coming from Rocking Horse Media. The pilot is set in a Wrexham care home and follows new receptionist Izzy, played by Orla Jones, and her relationship with the patients there. The cast is pretty astonishing, featuring Peter Purves in a leading role, as well as appearances from Colin Baker, Carol Ann Ford, Sophie Aldred, Katie Manning, Annette Badland, just to name a few. And another name on that list is Jacqueline King, who played Sylvia Noble in Doctor Who, bringing her incredible experience of stage and screen to the role of Doris, former cleaner at the care home, who now resides there as a dementia resident. To learn more about this project and its Doctor Who connections, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Henry House production manager, Luke Allen, and also the brilliant Jacqueline King as well. How are you all doing this evening?
I'm extremely well. I'm just looking for the brilliant Jacqueline King. Where is she?
It's Panto. She's behind you. So we'll start with you, Luke. Basically, you are the production manager on Henry House on this pilot. How did you get on board with the project? And most importantly, I think, how on earth did you folks wrangle such a brilliant cast?
Well, I first came on board, it was 2021. I was 17, I think, and I was doing a short film called Reduced to Clear that Gareth was working on as well. And we were just sort of met for dinner the night before, and he said, "Oh, I've got this idea for like this care home thing. Don't know if I'll do anything with it. Would you like to be involved?" And at that point, we were thinking like low budget web series, something like that. But on Reduced to Clear, we were working with Simon Fisher Becker, who was another sort of Doctor Who alumni, and slowly he ended up being involved in Henry House as well as a couple of other actors, and it just kind of grew, and we very quickly realized this sort of lovely Doctor Who connection of so many of the cast, and started sort of committing all the more to it, I think. And how it was so sort of lovely to get all these wonderful people like Jack's here all together, you know, and see them playing such different roles, because the as you gave the pitch for Henry House, it's you know, far removed from the world of Doctor Who, but it's filled with all these actors that, you know, people might not have seen them playing roles like this before.
So I'd like to know, Jax, like, how did you get involved? How did you first hear about this project? And I understand that a lot of the team as well were kind of working on expenses as well. They just really wanted to be involved that much. So can you talk about your involvement in it?
Yes, complete blackmail, and I was imprisoned in a room and forced. No, there was a little bit of emotional blackmail, because you do get told that yes, everyone's doing this for free, and you sort of think, well, if they want to, I shouldn't be the one that says no. But then I genuinely read the bit of the script that I was given, and I genuinely enjoyed it. I thought it was lovely. I thought it was charming. And the part that I was being offered was just an opportunity to do something completely different. I just thought I can have fun with this. And I met the team, and they were great. And I had the joy of working with some super people like Mark Benton and Carol Ann Ford and Peter Purves. And it was great.
So can you tell us more a little bit about the role that you're playing in this, Jax, as well? Because you're not because I've not been able to see the project myself, unfortunately, but I've heard an awful lot about it, and it seems that like there's multiple characters in the care home as well who also are going through dementia as well. So can you talk about like your role?
Doris is, or she thinks she is, the cleaner of Henry House, because she has been for many, many years, and then finally her deterioration in cognizance with her Alzheimer's means that she's become a resident, but she still believes she's the cleaner, and she's got a great sense of humour. She's from Liverpool. She's very down to earth. She's full of fun, and yeah, that's her character so far.
How did you get on working with the rest of the, I could say, Doctor Who family? Because are you all like in a WhatsApp group, or you're all in a chat where you just?
Oh, we all live together, actually. Yes, no, we're put into a TARDIS, and that's where we live, and we're only allowed out on special occasions. No, I hadn't worked with Peter Purves before. I hadn't even met him, so it was really, really exciting. Like many people, he's a total legend. I had known him obviously right from Blue Peter through, and so impressive to see that he can, because everybody was given the opportunity to do something different, and so I was seeing him in an entirely different light as a serious and clever and nuanced actor.
Yeah, I think it's one of those shames in that Peter's talked about himself in his career, is that he kind of got boxed into this presenter thing, but he is an incredible talent, and his performances, I think, in his portrayal, because we have two sides of sort of Alzheimer's and dementia that we see within Henry House, and the I guess the simplest way of saying it is that Peter's is a bit more dark and gritty, and Jax's is a bit more kind of lighthearted, because the research with a lot of the different people who'd experienced dementia and Alzheimer's, a lot of people have said it's those little light fun moments that are lost in TV drama, that kind of it's harmless, mostly someone thinking they're the cleaner, and they have to laugh, otherwise they cry. and so we get this sort of juxtaposition of Peter's kind of gritty dementia patient, who's also suffering with PTSD, and Jax, who kind of is the lighter-hearted moments, but they both also, of course, have elements of the other side.
Luke, could you elaborate a little bit more on like your role as the production manager for Henry House as well? Like what was your quote average day in the life of Henry House? Although we all know there's no such thing as an average day when working in TV, but
it varied. Obviously day to day. In massive big budget TV world, there would probably be an office of about 7 or 8 or more people doing my job, which was I put together the call sheets to tell people where they needed to be, negotiated contracts with cast, contacted agents, convinced all these people to come and do stuff for free, kept an eye on schedule shifts, kept an eye on HR, making sure everyone's comfortable, making sure things are on schedule when they can be. And the roles that everyone else in film seem to find the boring bits are the bits that I get given and that I actually have a heck of a lot of fun with, and just problem solve. Like any hurdle that comes up, what's the solution?
Yeah, a logistics guy. I can respect that, absolutely. And when it comes to Henry House as well, so like what are your like hopes and goals for Henry House? Like what's the next step? You filmed this pilot. I presume it's either like it's making its way through the edit, or it's mostly done, or like, so what is the plan next?
Yeah, so whilst it's kind of being edited through, because there have been so many sort of hurdles that we faced throughout production, so that I've joked about writing a book at some point, just like everything. So it actually meant that whilst we'd shot most of the pilot just short of a year ago, the actual final scenes weren't able to be shot till October due to a couple of kind of last minute availability issues and health concerns among different people. So now that's working its way through the edit. It's being pitched out to a few kind of networks. I think kind of I was listening to the earlier part of your stream where you were talking about the shape of the TV world and how there's not actually that much space for new undiscovered voices, and so it would be great to end up on like a Channel 4 or Channel 5 or a BBC 2 kind of weekly 45-minute drama, comedy drama. And so I guess the aim at the moment is just talking to different networks and getting them to, listen to a production manager that they've never met and never heard of, a writer, director they've never met and never heard of. And that's where the likes of Jax, the likes of Mark Benton, the Peter Purvis, the Annette Badlands, they hopefully are the ones where they go, oh, we might listen to these two strange blokes at the door,
Yeah, well, Jax, I think Luke was mentioning earlier that in like normal TV show, quote, normal TV show, like there'll be 5 or 6 people doing his job. But so when it comes to like working on something like Henry House, because you've had an incredibly impressive and eclectic career for such a long time, and like from massive shows like Doctor Who to much smaller shows and recurring shows as well. So what's it like being able to, do you approach these jobs the same way, or what's your process for different shows of different scale like this?
I think this project allowed me to relax a little bit more. I think when somebody says you have free reign and we're asking you in because we want you, rather than we have been. Sometimes when you're cast, it's all very sort of, we might have chosen somebody else, or it's all very judgmental, and you're very much sort of regimented into your role, and you feel a little bit constricted at times, and the director and the writer have very definite ideas of how it should be played, whereas this was lovely from the start in that Gareth was very open to how I wanted to play her, and it was collaborative as well. It wasn't just me dictating it, but it was just because the atmosphere was so pleasant, and because I suppose people were doing this for the love of it, there was a much more relaxed and delightful atmosphere.
And do you think, like, this next question goes to both of you, but do you think that the relaxed environment came from making a conceited effort to make Henry House an accessible workplace, an accessible location for like neurodivergent crew? Because I understand that was a big priority in terms of crewing up for Henry House. So can you talk about like how like running an accessible set basically, and like working with those adjustments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm neurodiverse myself, and so it's fascinating to me, like while we were looking into how to make sets accessible for neurodiversity and physical disabilities as well, that like considering how many people I know in the film and TV world that are neurodiverse, as to actually how strange it is that accommodations aren't the norm. And so I spoke to a guy called Matt Holt, who directed a CBBC program called A Kind of Spark, which is a fantastic show dealing with themes of autism, and they had a brilliant sort of accessible set, and it's always a process. There is some stuff that we very openly realized we screwed up on partway through that we then learned how to make things more accessible, and it's always a conversation. But even things like call sheets, Matt Holt kindly kind of sent me examples of what they did on A Kind of Spark, where they had 2 versions of the call sheet. You could have your standard one, which anyone who's seen a film TV call sheet is full of a lot of information that, quite frankly, most people don't need to read. And so we had the options of an easy read one, which was literally like, this is your time, this is what time lunch is, this is the scenes we're doing, and a couple of like pictures on there. And you'd find like some top talent, some top actors picked to have the easy reads instead of the standard ones, and it's just making those little accommodations and making sure there's someone that people can go to if they don't feel like their needs are being met and aren't going to feel like they're going to be shouted at or called a diva or anything like that, because being given basic access should just be a given, really.
Yeah, because I'm also like neurodivergent myself, working in the TV industry as well, and it's sort of like you're always maybe a little bit awkward and afraid to step up with your accessibility needs or accommodation and stuff like that, because if you're like, they could just get somebody else in the queue to get your same role. So I think it's quite admirable to have like such a concerted effort on something like Henry House as well. One thing I wanted to kind of ask as well is like how to, like, because I know that being topical isn't the be all and end all for a project, but like in light of the news last week of the government deferring its proposal on social care reforms to 2028, like what do you think Henry House has to say in like an environment like that? Like if it were to be like, let's say, picked up tomorrow and gets commissioned, what do you think it would be able to contribute to the conversation, really?
I think it's a lot about the fact that those higher ups making decisions aren't the ones who have to experience the consequences of those decisions, which broadly, of course, is government, full stop. But I think one of the lovely things with Henry House is, especially as we see through the eyes of Izzy and other characters, is like it's people on the ground that are trying their best, that are making a bigger difference than those who are at the top, who have got these policies and all these changes and see them as numbers rather than as people. And it's very much a show that celebrates those people who are working, minimum wage, overworked, overtired, wanting to help people, and really kind of celebrates that. And we've had a lot of consultancy with different care homes that have read on the script and carers that have visited the set and all the rest. And I think they're really liking the fact that, what they're doing that feels so unappreciated is being celebrated.
So we got one question from Jane. She says that she was lucky enough to meet you at a party once in London when you were starring in Dark Sublime, a play with Marina Sirtis. Jane says that she'd not long lost her dad and that you were so sweet and kind to her. And so she wants to know if you enjoyed the experience of that play, Dark Sublime, and working with another genre star, as I believe Marina Sirtis was in Star Trek. I don't watch Star Trek, but I assume she was.
She was superb. She is incredible. I mean, her character in Star Trek is this divine, beautiful lady who's got a serene voice and a serenity in character. And then you meet Marina, and she is still extremely beautiful, but is so down to earth and football loving and Londoner and just a great character. So we just giggled right from the beginning. And then I had the lovely Sophie Ward as in the cast as my girlfriend, and just a super cast altogether. Jane, that was nice of you to say that. I hope you're all right.
You've got such like an interesting career as well. Like you even played Theresa May in a documentary a few years ago as well.
It could have been you sitting behind this desk and me in that chair.
Oh, yes. Well.
Yes. Well, it isn't.
No.
When it comes to returning to a role, for example, like in Doctor Who as Sylvia, where you've been playing this character several times, but there's been like a big time difference in between. Like, do you like go back and like watch what you did before, or do you kind of take it when it comes to referencing? Like, what's your approach for it?
Well, I think in that case, Sylvia was just in my blood. She was in my blood right from the beginning, and I think we all felt that there's no point in going back and looking at what you did 12 years ago. You just pick up and think, well, these characters will evolve. Russell T wrote so sensitively and beautifully for us and made sure that we had evolved, that we were learning, our lives were different, and we had different attitudes because we were older. And so we went with the newness of it all. Otherwise you're sort of putting on a layer, and instead we were just being who we felt that these characters would be today, from inside out.
Because you've played the role as well in audio for Big Finish. And we also, I mentioned earlier during the live stream that you've also played the role of God in Torchwood as well, which is that's quite an interesting thing to put on the CV, I imagine.
There's not many women can say that, are there?
No, God is a woman, of course. So we've got a question from Ophelia asking, how does the experience change? Like because I imagine making TV in 2005, 2006, when you first played the role, up till when you played Sylvia in The Star Beast a few years ago. Like, is it like fundamentally different, or when you step on the set?
The budget was much better. I'm not saying that was reflected in our wages, but it was certainly evident in the set and the special effects, but the camaraderie was just as gorgeous as it always had been. We welcomed Yasmin Finney to us, to our family. And sadly, I didn't get to work with Bernard this time. Saw him at the read through, and then very sadly he died before I could do my scenes with him. But no, in terms of changes, no, it just felt like we were the family that had always been, and that we were still together.
No, brilliant. We've also got a question from Layla, who basically she just loved you playing Sylvia. Is there a role that you're really proud of on screen or audio or another medium that you'd like to shine some more light on? So, not to put you on the spot, but here's your opportunity.
Hi, Leila. Thank you for your comments. That's lovely. Well, I played a role at the National Theatre in a play called Spring Storm. Her name was Esmeralda Critchfield, and she was from the Deep South. And it was just a role I just relished. She was the sort of overtones of Sylvia. I always seem to play women who get it wrong, who say things that they shouldn't, and who perhaps don't watch their words and are a bit strong when they don't need to be, or I don't know. These seems to be the pattern of my roles, but I loved playing Esmeralda. I mean, I love playing Sylvia. Let's be honest.
Oh, brilliant. We've got a question for you both from Ethan in the chat. What advice do you have for people aspiring to get into the TV industry, be it acting or crew work? Luke, did you want to start off with this one for Ethan?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's consistently difficult. I mean, I'm always wary to say whether how in it I am in terms of, financially. But I've definitely, I mean, I've gone a different route to obviously like yourself, Will, in that like I'm from Shropshire, which is an area where not very much happens, and so I got onto stuff where we're making it ourselves and starting from the ground up, and getting on little sets from student short films where you're doing everything slowly as the sets get bigger, learning to delegate until you're doing just one job. But it now means that when I'm going on for different projects, a couple of different features I was on last year, like I have a decent understanding of what everyone does because I had to start by doing it all. And so I'd say probably that's the angle where you learn the most, but not necessarily the angle where you are guaranteed to get a lot of work off the back of it, because there's still a lot of taboo in TV and film about low budget independent stuff. Like the number of like BBC jobs I've applied for where the feedback for not getting it was, oh, you've only done independent stuff, so we don't want you. Not the continual thing of, okay, but how do I get the other stuff if you're always going to turn it down? But there's always that. So that's what I've done, but I don't know if I'd advise it if you want to make a living quick. I wouldn't advise TV and film if you want to make a living quick.
And yeah, Jacqueline, do you have anything to add in terms of advice for maybe getting into acting or?
I think what Luke said was incredibly valid for all areas of the industry. The more you know about it, the better you're going to be. Because if you understand what somebody's doing and why they're doing it, you behave better and you respond better. So, if you're an actor and you're at a technical rehearsal, if you understand what everybody in that room is doing and what they're concentrating on, then you're going to be a better actor and you're going to be a better company member. And similarly on sets. But as far as how do you get into the acting trade, I have no clue. In my day, it was just as hard, really, because we had the old system of that you couldn't join unless you had an equity card. And that was a whole catch-22 situation. Nowadays, you don't have to have the equity card. There are more ways of entering. But I'm afraid I'm so out of touch with all the new streams and all the new ways of getting work. I think what Luke said again about just do something, create something yourself, do some short films yourself, get involved. When I started, worked in a production company, theatre production company, and read in for the actors auditioning. And that really taught me so much. I was watching them and learning what they did, how they talked, how they looked, how they presented themselves, how well they'd learnt their line.
No, brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for that advice. Ethan, I hope you were taking notes. So I've got, this is a very Doctor Who specific question for Jack, but I'd kick myself if I didn't ask. And and Alyssa also has had this question as well. So for the series where you had the episode Turn Left, which is written by Russell and directed by Graham Harper as well, because that's such a different episode tonally. And there's so the first part of the question is like, what was your reaction when you first read the script? But the second question is like, there's a shot near the end when Catherine Tate as Donna is like talking to you in the background, and like the camera's in your face, and you look, using Alyssa's words, totally despondent. And like it's a really intense moment. And I guess, can you like talk more about just the filming of that particular moment?
Well, I do remember it very clearly, Alyssa. Thank you so much for your comments. Graham Harper, of course, I have a huge debt of gratitude, because he was so sensitive to Russell T's brilliant script. And Catherine was so generous to be able to sort of say, yes, I don't mind being in the background on this scene. Everybody was generous. Everybody recognized where the pathos was of that whole episode. And so there was concentration where it needed to be. We were all touched by it. We were so touched that it was a genuine feeling. I hardly felt like I was acting at all.
Yeah, because it's such it's so different from everything else that season as well, and I do think if I may, it's one of like just the best acted moments of the whole series. I think because it's so
absolutely,
it's so intense, but you make it look very easy.
Oh well, thank you. I mean, we genuinely cried, but Bernard's portrayal, of Wilf saluting the people being taken off. That still makes me cry when I think about it. It was a beautiful script.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so grounded as well. But it's meant to be a fun blue box show sometimes. But sometimes there's a little white creature, furry creature going around the corridors going meep, and sometimes you've got scenes like turn left. In terms of what's obviously we've been talking about Henry House during this conversation. Do you have anything else coming up that you wanted to talk about or shine a light on, or what you're doing next?
Yeah, a couple of bits and bobs. Did a sketch show, which is just the final stages of production. I got a quick little mention in Doctor Who magazine actually, because more Doctor Who alums, Susan Twist, Katie Manning, Tom Price worked on that. And just entering production on my debut feature as a producer, a film called First Christmas. So, yeah, that both are there. There's nothing to direct people to, but they're happening. And yeah, kind of, it's looking to be maybe a very busy kind of 2025.
Oh gosh, congratulations, Luke. That's wonderful. My diary is giving me snow blindness when I look at it, but I have got irons in the fire in so much as I've done some wonderful auditions. I don't mean I was wonderful, I just mean the projects are wonderful, and I'd be very excited if any of those came off. The only thing that's concrete is that I'm doing a book for Penguin, and it'll be another science fiction book, so it will be related, but that's all I can tell you about it.
No, terrific stuff. Thank you so much. Because I'm curious as well, Jax, because like I said, I'm a freelancer in TV on the production side, and I'm wondering if you've noticed like the same perceived drought as well for like in terms of TV commissions or media in general. Have you noticed that as well?
Oh, for sure. I mean, to begin with, I sort of just kept thinking it was just me because I was older and I was female. I was thinking, oh, crumbs, they just don't want me anymore. But then I begin to talk to young people and all the other people I know in the business, and everybody's saying the same, that yes, there just doesn't seem to be the work load that they used to have. I don't know what the meaning of that is. I don't know the reasons. But it's a fact.
I think it's a good time to push people towards the low budget independent scene. Really, I think it feels awkward to say because we're basically saying, well, there's no work for less. But essentially, people just want to work. So if you've got a film you want to make or people you want to work with, like, ring them up and ask. Like, the worst anyone's going to say is no. And people want to work. And so I think, I'm personally trying to turn this, tough time in the general mainstream industry into a thriving time in the independents, hopefully.
Well done.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier during the live stream, like Gavin and Stacey getting nearly 20 million viewers over 7 days at Christmas, and it's obviously it's got an established brand name, but it is relatively small in terms of TV productions. I think they filmed it in October, and they turned it around in 2 months for the Christmas.
Amazing.
So I think now's a good time to start. If you've got an indie project that you're wanting to develop, maybe give it another draft. Maybe push it forward and get it in front of some
Just don't pitch it to the same networks as Henry House.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Yeah, we want Henry House in first.
Speaking of which, is there anything that that the viewers of this video, the viewers of this stream, is there anything that we can do in terms of advocating for Henry House or spreading awareness, or any social medias they can follow? Anything that we can do towards a common good?
Yeah, I mean, if you search up Rocking Horse Media on all the good socials, I know they're posting stuff all the time about Henry House and a couple of other things they've got on. I think the main thing at the moment is the more people are talking about Henry House, the more that's going to aid the pitch. If I remember when we were shooting, I got emails from people. I think someone emailed from Australia being like, "Can I have a DVD of Henry House?" I'm like, we'll have to finish it first, but but it's those little things. The fact that we could then go to a network and say, "Well, there's an audience in Australia that are interested. There's these people, And so the more people talk about it, the more people post about it, the more it's just generally spoken about in conversation. We're lucky enough, locally in Shropshire, that a lot of people know about Henry House, and Shropshire and Wrexham being the sort of main areas that we were shooting, to the point that it's almost an assumption from people that it's going to get picked up, which is lovely. If that could extend to a larger audience, assuming it's going to get picked up, then the pressure is to the networks that they're going to let down all these people if they don't say yes.
Yeah.
So if people just keep talking about it, keep pushing it, keep checking out. There's loads of stuff on our social media, all about Henry House. Lots of lovely pictures of all the cast and crew together. As well as Doctor Who people, there's a couple of people who are soap fans. There's the cast that have come attached to Henry House are incredible, and it's a beautiful script. Is the truth. Gareth and I, we've worked together for a long time, but I remember Gareth and I had a falling out when he first sent me the script, and I was like, I guess I'll read this. And I remember being really genuinely angry reading it, being like, I'm gonna have to be nice to him now because I need to work on this. and that's lasted 3 years, so I've had to put grudges aside.
That's lovely. I first heard about it because Doctor Who magazine did a really nice write-up for it last year as well, so we're really trying to spread the word there, and I think it's a testament to yourself, Luke, and those at Rocking Horse Media for being able to get the word out so effectively as well. And just being able to get that cast together in the first place. My hat's off to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's grown larger than we could ever expected, and it's just the allowing it to take control. I mean, Sam Watts is doing the music for it, which was so bizarre. We'd reached out to Sam a little while ago to see whether he fancied the scene in the Doctor Who magazine article discussed a sort of scene where pretty much all the extras in the scene are Doctor Who adjacent people. From Colin Baker doesn't even have a line. he coughs in a scene, and he drove from London to Wrexham to cough, which is incredible. But yeah, we have this big thing, and we reached out to Sam Watts then to be like, do you fancy being in it? And he, being in Canada, thought the journey to Wrexham might be a bit much, which was fair enough. And I thought that was the end of that. And then get an email from Sam Watts a couple of months later being like, hey, any chance I could do the music? And he's doing it for his expenses as much as everyone else is. And so it's like that people are coming to us now. It was a similar instance with Katie Manning. Is like we'd a couple of people who were mutual friends with Katie Manning just kept being like, Katie keeps saying she wants to be involved. And we had a phone call with her, and she was like, yeah, all my friends are in this. I just want to be part of it. So she's just in the supporting cast in the care home. Katie doesn't have any lines. Just one of the residents in the care home in a house is Katie Manning, which was a brilliant few days, and surreal being a Doctor Who fan working on it. having an important job to do, but walking through a room where Peter Purvis, Caroline Ford, and Katie Manning are, and having to think, I can't pay attention to this. I've got to walk straight from one room to the next.
Yeah,
It's very difficult.
I think it's mad that you've got Sam Watts doing music for it, but Dominic Glynn is a patient, like as in composer from the 1980s Doctor Who. Like he's not doing music for it; he's just on camera.
Yeah, that was such a brilliant. It's such a little scene. Actually, comes just before a scene that Jax is in. But yeah, a little scene with Colin Baker, Sophie Aldred, Mickey Lewis, Dominic Glynn, the voice of Matthew Jacobs on the hospital tannoy. Like it's this most sort of Doctor Who fueled thing, a sort of wink and a nod to the audience of going, yeah, we know half our cast are from Doctor Who. And yeah, it was such
you should hold a competition when they watch it to, who can write down how many voices and people they recognize, get the full list in first.
I like that because I've lost track. Is irritating? I used to cite a number and I can't remember the number. And it's been a surreal journey from start to finish, and it's been countless hurdles as well, which is I think maybe why this sort of big camaraderie has come about. Is we started shooting in 2023 and we got 2/3 of it shot, and then Peter Purvis between shoot days at home fell and broke his wrist in 2 places. We had to totally suspend production. It was going to be 6 months recovery, and at which point continuity was going to be a concern. So Gareth and I were basically, and all the team were basically faced with we're going to have to stop everything and come back and pick it up from scratch like a year later, which we did. But we had to refinance the whole thing. So there were live shows raising money. There was one of our cast, a woman called Heather with cerebral palsy in the care support home she ran a cake sale or something like that, or I can't remember specifically what it was, but she was raising money for Henry House through that. We had international investment. So even before we finished shooting it, there was this camaraderie of people wanting to make it happen. I've never heard a pilot talked about this much. And so I'm hoping that that's a good sign.
Yeah, it just kind of make me think, if you get beyond the pilot, who are you going to cast in future? You don't want to run out of everyone too quickly. Is there anyone, Doctor Who or otherwise, that you would love to work with in future? Do you have a bucket list? Someone who you've admired from afar, who you'd love to work with?
Is that a question to me?
Yes, if possible.
Oh. Gosh, I'm hopeless at names. I can't name drop to save my life. So I should be mentioning all sorts of wonderful directors that I've admired for years. But ostensibly, really what I want to do is just tell new stories. I love new work. I love people saying this is a new adventure that I'm going to take you on, rather than, saying I want to be in a Shakespeare or a classic. Not that I'd ever turn that down, mind you. But I suppose my heart and my soul just wants to either educate, entertain, or both, by telling a new story. And so many people do that beautifully, and unknown people. So it's not just the big names in the business. You don't always need the big money and the big name for something to be superb. I was hearing about a production at the Orange Tree recently where there was just 2 people and 2 pillars, and that was it. That was the set, that was the cast, and it was apparently engrossing and stunning.
Lovely stuff. I think that's a lovely note. Did we lose Jax? Oh dear, we did lose Jax. Well, that was kind of perfect timing, because I was about to wrap everything up. It's just you and me now, Luke. Not sure what happened there, but anyway, it was lovely to talk to you both. I was about to wrap up anyway, but it was lovely to talk to you both. Lou, if you could please send my warmest wishes to Jax, and massive thanks for her joining us this evening.
No worries, I will do. It's been a lot of fun. As someone who's watched these streams for years as well, it's very weird being on one, so thank you for letting us come on.
Well, because a little bit peek behind the curtain here, chat. Luke got in touch with me nearly a year ago to talk about this when Doctor Who magazine did their featurette. And unfortunately, I guess did not reply. So this has been like kind of like long gestating. But yes, Luke, thank you so much for joining us this evening. There'll be links to Rocking Horse Media socials in the description below when this gets uploaded as a VOD. Luke, thank you so much for your time this evening. And once again, please send my warmest thanks to Jax as well for her time and her insight as well.
Thank you. I'll speak to you soon.
You take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Well, that was well timed, kind of. That I'm not sure what happened there.